Joined by Oklahoma's Insurance Commissioner, John Doak. Thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Obviously a very, very big day. Let's talk about what this means for Oklahoma, because there's been some resistance to do the health care exchanges, and now that's part of the law. So what do you do, and how do you spin that up quickly?
Absolutely. One of the things I think that the legislature is going to have to look at quickly and make some decisions is what is in Oklahoma's best interest. The federal exchanges, they say those are forthcoming, but yet we don't know if those have actually been funded behind the scenes. So we've got many different folks talking back and forth. Have those federal exchanges been appropriated by Congress? So we don't know if the funding is actually there. So that's what they've been telling us all along, is the federal exchanges will be implemented in the state of Oklahoma. And there are many of us that are highly speculative of have Congress appropriated those, and will those be funded, and where is that now? So there's going to be many decisions that are going to continue to be made at the federal level and at the state level, and the state exchanges are at the legislature level here in Oklahoma to make a decision if we're going to move forward with that. If we move forward with a federal exchange that is after today, I am a regulator and we have to implement the law of the land. It is the law. The Supreme Court has spoken, but it gives really the people of the United States an opportunity to speak in November. So I think that there's going to be many of us that are going to want to see what happens there, but we're going to need to make some decisions as a state pretty quickly.
Now, this obviously was a landmark decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, but
Absolutely.
It also opens the door for perhaps other challenges, so this may not be the definitive word.
Absolutely. There's going to be some challenges that are going to come out of this. Right now, I believe there's over 20 court cases pending on religious liberties issues related to, religious organizations that are kind of fighting usurp of states' rights, religious rights. So that's going to be interesting. There's also a part of this which bothers me greatly, and I've spoken out about on the national level, is the term navigators, which is packed inside of Obamacare, which means that unlicensed folks are going to be able to help individuals with their health care. In Oklahoma, I'm a strong advocate. The front line of consumer protection for Oklahoma is licensed agents and brokers helping folks make critical decisions based upon their health care. And this is something that I see now is moving ahead, and we're going to have to make some critical decisions and get with other regulators, other state leaders, industry leaders, and consumer groups, which really we believe that licensed agents and brokers really are the front line of defense to help consumers make good choices.
Let's talk about winners and losers with this. I would think that those selling health care insurance are probably one of the biggest winners, because now you got a whole bunch more people to sell insurance to.
It is, but it also, let's not lose the fact that this is the biggest tax hike on middle class in history of the country, I believe. So it is a tax. Let's be very clear about that. And the president sold this as not being a tax. And clearly the Supreme Court today said it is a tax, and I think that's going to give a lot of folks pause because he argued before the Supreme Court and sold it that way.
Yeah, and for I guess some of the biggest losers might be some of those people who have small businesses.
Absolutely.
They're struggling, they're trying to get by, and now they're trying to figure out how
Absolutely. Health care costs are not going down. They're going up, and they were going to continue to go up underneath this process. But yeah, there's going to be fines and penalties imposed on folks. The IRS is going to grow exponentially larger. Government is going to get bigger. And many of us are going to lose the choices that we have for our health care providers and our doctors. But transparency in health care. I've been in all 77 counties of Oklahoma, and it's really not a Republican or Democrat issue. We want good, affordable, accessible, transparent health care in the state of Oklahoma, and we really need to be looking at this from all sides. I know there was a meeting here in Tulsa earlier today talking about what do we do to get more doctors into the system. So there's multiple issues here, but again, this is a very divisive issue. It's one that the Supreme Court has spoken. I am a regulator. I have to uphold the law, and now we're going to work through it and see what happens. But again, on some of these pieces, I'm going to regulate them and not run them on an exchange basis. But I think it's going to be interesting the next few weeks and months to see what happens.
Yeah, and speaking of that, because we do have the election coming up in November, and then once whatever happens, things could change again. But snapshot as of today, if we move forward just with what happened today, what does healthcare look like in Oklahoma in the next year or so?
Well, in the next year in Oklahoma, if nothing happens before November, and there's some pieces that have to be moving forward in this, again, the legislature has to make some decisions to give regulators like myself guidance on what are going to be those next steps. And I know we have some very thoughtful people on both sides of the aisle that are going to be talking about this, doing what's best for Oklahoma. But it's the uninsured population out there that we're working on. But again, these fines and penalties are going to be imposed on folks. And then with Oklahoma opting out of this at 64%, it's going to be an interesting discussion. But the Supreme Court has spoken, and we have to move forward until November and see what happens then.
What's the general feeling among state leaders right now? Was this a bad decision for Oklahoma? Will it impact us negatively, or is there going to be some positive here?
Well, across the board. I mean, and there are some good points, parts of the act which is out there that I think both sides of the aisle say that are good. But going forward, if you look across the line, the landscape today of the comments that are made from state leaders is that this is something which is we thought that potentially that this was going to be overturned. The individual mandate was, and you see all of our congressional folks. You can go out there and see the comments that are made out there. But I think this is really an overreach into our personal lives. It's something that I personally don't believe is something which is constitutional. But again, it went to the tax part, and I don't think anybody thought Justice Roberts was going to focus in on the tax issue, which Congress has the power to tax us. And again, that's where our folks in Congress and our senators those are the folks that we elect. And I think that's going to be a very interesting discussion in the upcoming political season. I think that whole ball game shifted today.
Yeah, and we'll see how it all moves forward.
That's right.
Commissioner Doak, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.